Hey dolls, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be doing a full YouTube tutorial on how I get this warm glam. This is more of a neutral smoky eye with a pop of silver on my lid. I will also be showing you how I cream, contour, and highlight. So if you want to see how I get this look, then just keep on watching. I'm going to first start using my Bulletproof Brows by Too Faced Cosmetic in the color Universal Brunette and my number 12 brush from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I'm going to brush my brows in the direction that the hair grows. And then I'm going to start filling in all the sparse areas, mainly focusing this on my arch and my tail because that's where I have the most sparse areas and that's where my brows tend to be the thinnest. This product is a lot like Anastasia Dip Brow. I do prefer the dip brow better, but I'm just not a big fan of wasting makeup. So I do like this one. If you're looking for something that's close to the dip brow, you can definitely give this one a go. I do really like the color. It's not warm. But I also go in with the Lorac Espresso eyeshadow. And that is actually in my Lorac Pro palette, and I fill out mainly the arch and also I create a depth in my tail. I like it to be darker in the back and where my arch is, and I like it to be lighter in the front. So I just keep going in between the spoolie and filling them in, and then when I get closer to the front of my brow, I tend to put less product there, kind of just hair-like strokes. Now I'm just taking my NYX Tinted Brow Mascara and I'm going to set my brows so the hairs stay in place. I like to do my brows before anything else just because I feel like if I have foundation on my face, my brows just feel slippery and they could just mess up quickly, so I do like doing my brows before anything. Now I'm going in with my MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot and a flat concealer brush from Real Techniques, and I'm just going to prime my eyes. I like to use this brush and the MAC Soft Ochre to prime my eyes because I feel like it gives me a very light color to start with, a very light base. I do also go in with my fingers and make sure that it's spread out evenly throughout my eyelids. Then I set it with a translucent powder. To eyes, I'm going in white with my Lorac Mega Pro 2 palette in the color Melon, and I'm just going to use that as my transition shade. What I do is I get a little bit of product, I place it on my eyes and I blend it out. Then I will go back in about 2 or 3 more times just to intensify that transition shade. I find when you want to really intensify a color and make it really show, take a little bit of product at a time, apply it, blend it out, go back into the transition shade, apply it again, and then blend it out. Now I'm going to go in with the shade Goji and another M441 brush by Morphe, and I'm going to focus that more so on the outer corner of the eyes, kind of bringing it a little bit in halfway. Then I'll take my other brush, I was using 2 M441 brushes with the Melon on it, and I'm just going to blend those two together. I will do this about 2 or 3 times just to intensify the color of my shade. Now I'm going to just warm up some Scotch tape on the back of my hand. I really didn't want to use this. I prefer shadow shields, but I was all out, so you got to work with what you got. And I'm just going to place that on the outer edges just to make sure that it's very sharp there. I'm going to go in with the color Cabernet and Saddle from the same palette, and I'm going to mix those two together and just really intensify that color. Then I will go back in with the M441 brushes with Goji and Melon. I know it seems like a long process, and it really is. However, it does give a great payoff when you go back in and blend those colors out. Now I'm just taking a white bead, cleaning up the line after the tape, and I'm going to go in with my lid shade. This is Prosecco in the same palette, and I'm using a MAC 242 brush just to tap it on. The brush is a little bit wet, not too much, but I did tap that on in a tapping motion all over the lid. And then I'll go back in with the color Cabernet and Saddle just to intensify the outer corner, just to make sure it's still there. It's kind of like an ombre effect into going to the outer V shape. And then after that, I am going to go in back with a pigment. This is actually from MAC. This is called Light Touch, and it's a pressed pigment. And I'm using a MAC 239 brush. Any flat brush or lid brush will do. And I'm just going to tap that on. And once we're done with the eyes, we're going to quickly move forward to the face. I am using the Professional Benefit primer. This primer is oil free, it's lightweight, translucent, and silky. This is my holy grail primer. I have not used a primer as long as I've used this one. I think I've been using this primer for the past 3 years. I do have larger pores, and this is the only primer that I find that really minimizes that and gives me a really flawless look in those areas. So if you haven't tried this primer and you have larger pores, I definitely think you should give it a go. I also want to let you guys know before I go to foundation, I did not get my liner or my lashes on video. I was out of focus, but I am using the Vegas Nay Classic Charm double stacked with the Demi Wispy, and I am just using the Maybelline Eye Studio Blackest black liner. Now moving forward to foundation, I am using the Too Faced Born This Way Absolute Perfection Foundation. I love this one because it's oil free, and I'm blending it with the MAC Face and Body Foundation. In the wintertime, I have to mix these two colors together. The Born This Way is too light for my skin, the MAC is too dark for my skin. When I mix them together, they are a match made in heaven. They're the perfect shade, and also it's a little more lightweight and not as matte, and I tend to get a lot drier around my nose area in the winter. So this is a little more hydrating for me using in the winter. It's a perfect shade. I am using my Real Technique sponge. This is kind of like a beauty blender, but it does have a flat side. I highly recommend this blender. If you have not tried it yet, please do. It is only $6 at Walmart, and I will not steer you wrong, guys. This is the best beauty sponge I have ever used. Alright, so on to cream highlighting and contouring. So basically what that is cream highlighting and contouring. You're going to put a shade 2 times lighter than your original foundation shade on the areas where the light hits. So I put mine down my nose, on my cupid's bow, on my chin, in the center of my forehead, and underneath my eyes to brighten all those areas. I am using LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Creamy Beige to do that. Then I will go in with a LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Toast, and this is where I want to contour. So I want a slimmer appearance. My face is really round, and I want a slimmer appearance. So I'm going to put that contour shade on my forehead, on the sides of my nose to give me a slimmer nose appearance, and on the sides of my cheeks to kind of narrow in my cheeks to where my face isn't so round and it has a lot more structure to it. I don't do this all the time. I do this when I want more of a heavy glam look. I would say like a night out or a birthday party or a family event or going out with friends. This is not an everyday thing, but it is when you want that extra dimension. So this method is awesome, and I do use that same Real Techniques blending sponge. Trust me guys, I'm not steering you wrong. I will put this in your Christmas stocking. So when I'm going in with my Techniques blending sponge on my contour shade, I do it in a tapping motion. You definitely want to make sure that you're not swiping it, or you don't have it pressed onto your skin and you're moving the product. That product will slide all over your face and you will have chaos. Make sure you are tapping it in a tapping motion. You're pouncing it right on top of the product and you're dabbing and tapping into your skin exactly where you put that product. You definitely don't want to swipe it left or right or too far up. Then I'm going in with my Naked Skin Urban Decay Weightless Complete Coverage Concealer. This is one of the best high-end brand concealers I have ever used. And trust me, I have used a lot. If you're in the market shopping for a new concealer, I would definitely recommend going with this concealer. This is one of the best. I will not steer you wrong. And then I'm going to use a dry beauty blender, and I'm going to use my Ben Nye Cameo setting powder. I'm going to set underneath my eyes. I just want to make sure that when I go underneath my eyes with the eyeshadow on my lower lash line, that there's no fallout. And if there is, I could just dust it away with that translucent powder that's setting there. I also do set my nose and underneath and around my nose, and also the top of my forehead. However, in the wintertime, I do not let it bake and I do not use the cooking method on those areas. You will get very dry, and I don't want to be too dry because then my skin's gonna get irritated and I might break out. So as soon as I set those areas, I do go in with a large powder brush and I make sure that I do dust that off immediately so it's not setting. However, underneath my eyes where my concealer is, I will let that bake until I am done with my lower lash line eye makeup. And then I'm going to go in with the shade Goji in Cabernet and Saddle and a MAC 217 brush, and I'm just going to ensure that those three colors are blended on my lower lash line. Then I'm going to go in with a Morphe E27 brush, and I'm going to buff out all of the rest of that translucent powder, and then I'm going to put mascara on my lower lash line. This is the NYX Instant Lash, one of my favorite mascaras. I believe it's only $1. Now moving on to the face, I am using the MAC Select Sheer Press Powder in the shade NC25, and I'm using a Real Techniques blush brush. I know the brush is broken, however, it's my favorite brush to apply. I do set the rest of my face with this powder on the areas that I did not bake, because I feel that if I set it with a powder and then I go in with a contour shade, that it just helps better than to putting a contour powder on top of foundation, something that's liquid, more so putting it on a powder face, if that makes any sense. So then I'm going to take my Morphe M405 brush, and I am taking the Kat Von D Shade Light palette. This is my contour kit. And I'm going to go in with the coolest one. I feel like it has more of a cool tone to it and it's not very warm. It's the color Subconscious, and I'm going to ensure that I put a little bit on my brush, very minimal, then I tap off the excess, and then I will go in and I will sculpt my face. I will go in about 2 or 3 times using minimal product. If you go in with too much, you're not going to know where to blend all that product. It's going to be much harder. It could look a little muddy. So I do take a little bit at a time, and I go in about 2 to 3 times with that contour. I will go on the sides of my cheek to make my face appear slimmer. Then I will go in with the same beauty blender and translucent powder in Cameo, and I will clean up the edges, quote unquote, once again, baking. Then I'm going to go on to blush. I am taking my Morphe B4 fan brush. I'm going to take MAC Warm Soul and e.l.f. Cosmetics in the color Candid Coral, and I'm going to apply that on the apples of my cheeks and kind of bring it back into that contour so the contour doesn't look too heavy and it's kind of well blended with the blush. On to highlight, I am going to be using my Morphe E27 brush and Champagne Pop from Jaclyn Hill. I'm going to fill out where the highest points of my cheeks are, and that's where I'm going to dab it. I am not swiping, I am tapping this on for higher intensity. I'm also going to place it on top of my brow, kind of on my forehead, and then I'm going to make a C motion and kind of connect those two. I will also place it on my nose. After I apply the product, I'll use my finger to kind of use the rest of the product to blend it on the top of my nose. Then I want a little more intensity, so I'm going to go in with a Laura Geller Gilded Honey in a fan brush from Morphe. It's a duo fiber fan brush, and I'm going to also place that on top of wherever I placed the Champagne Pop. I did want to use MAC Oh Darling, however that's limited edition, and I know you can still find Gilded Honey in store. It is very similar to the MAC. Just to really intensify that highlight, then I'm going to go in with a large Real Techniques powder brush, and I'm going to blend in my contour with my blush, with my highlight, so everything looks really flawless and seamless. I don't want anything to look too heavy. Now onto the lips. I'm going to be using the Lippy Sticks from ColourPop Cosmetics in the color Cookie. This is a matte shade. It's very nude. And then I'm going to top it off with a little bit of color. I'm going to go in with Dose of Colors lipstick and the color Koi. It looks really orange, but it really just gives a coral color payoff. And then I will be topping that off with my NYX Butter Gloss. And this is my favorite lip gloss ever. You can find these at Ulta or like wherever they sell NYX products for like $4 or $5. And this is in the shade Fortune Cookie. So once I'm done with that, this look is complete. I really want to thank all you guys for watching. Don't forget to like the video or subscribe. And until next time, I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.